This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 575 of Horse Tip Daily. A different horse tip, a different equine topic, a different equestrian expert every day. Horse Tip Daily brings the world of equine knowledge to you one day at a time. Today's tip is brought to you by EquestrianCollections.com for a world of choices in equestrian shopping. Hi, Coach Jen here, and thanks for tuning in to Horse Tip Daily. Today's tip is from Reese Koffler-Stanfield, international dressage competitor. Reese is a young and upcoming star in the dressage here in U.S. and a popular coach and clinician. Her students are dressage enthusiasts as well as event riders who are out to improve their dressage scores as well as their overall performances. Today's tip is a little bit about fitting the bit. But first, a word about today's sponsor, EquestrianCollections.com. When you need to resupply, replace, update, or invest in the stuff that makes your horse life possible, stop by EquestrianCollections.com first. Browse through some 7,000 boot choices from great brands like Ariat, Boggs, Mountain Horse, Ovation, Smoky Mountain, and more. Outfit yourself in the latest and the greatest. And don't forget your horse. EquestrianCollections.com offers some 400 blankets, sheets, and coolers from Buckus, Amigo, and Rambo by Horseware, Hug, Kensington, Triple Crown Custom, and Weatherbeta, just to name a few. Your horse will be warm and dry and stylish this winter. Not sure what type of saddle pad you want? Well, go to Equestrian Collections because they have over 600 different choices. No matter whether you ride English, Western, or bareback around the backyard, EquestrianCollections.com has the most amazing selection of brand name products you are going to find anywhere. So stop by today, EquestrianCollections.com. Now, enjoy today's tip. And Reese Koffler-Stanfield, our favorite dressage champion, is here today with us to give us another tip on something clever and something really, really needed that everybody's going to go, oh, I'm so glad she brought that up. So what is it going to be today?
We're going to talk about bitting and bitting kind of tips and issues that go along with finding the correct bit for your horse.
Ooh.
I know. This is a big one.
That's a big one. We could do about 30 tips on that.
We could. So we're going to hit a high level with the tips.
Okay, we're going to go the big picture.
Yeah, the big picture. So bitting issues, horses, it's just like finding the perfect sweater or pair of jeans. Everybody has something different that they like about them. There's certain kind of jeans out there that you would start with, and you can get more specific as you get a little more specific on what you want your jeans to do. That's kind of the way I think.
We're going with the what not to wear angle here.
No, just an analogy. But
Clint and Kelly would be so proud.
I know they would. I should probably, yeah. But so with bits, first of all, I want to always check the horse's teeth. This is important. Again, whenever I have any issue that comes up, I want to make sure that there's absolutely no medical issue with the horse.
Right. First and foremost, make sure that you're dealing with the right problem. You can change bits till you're blue in the face, and if there's something going on in his mouth.
Right, exactly. They have a hook or, there can be ulcers. There can be all kinds of issues with bits.
You know what amazes me, and this is a little bit off the topic, but having just experienced this myself with my horse Beaker, it's amazing how bad their teeth can be, and they don't really tell you.
No, they
He's
don't.
Fat. He's got an appetite like a rhinoceros. He will eat anything in his way. He's shiny. He's healthy.
Yeah.
He doesn't really have, quote, bit issues. He would have some bending issues and stuff, but he didn't quit his feed. He doesn't throw his feet. None of those things happen. So if you've got a horse that leans, a horse that doesn't bend one way, a horse that whatever is going on at the bit, do not overlook teeth.
The teeth. I think that's always the place that I start. I want to know that they are okay. There's no hooks or anything going on in the mouth. And we have some horses in training. They're every 6 months. They need to be checked.
Well, especially the young ones. There's a lot going on in the teeth when they're younger.
There is. So and so that's going to play into it. On what bit you're going to use, and then. For a dressage horse, you've got your snaffles and you've got your KK snaffles. We don't have a huge amount of bits that we can use.
Because the rule book restricts.
Right.
You have to use a snaffle, and in the English business, snaffle is a bit that has a mouthpiece that is either jointed or not.
Right.
And a ring on the outside. There's no what you would call a shank.
Right.
And that can be a little confusing for folks because in the Western business, there are certain types of curb bits, a bit with a shank, that are referred to as snaffle.
Okay,
So it can be a little
you
bit
learn something
confusing.
new every day, even doing your tips.
Frequently a tom thumb snaffle or training snaffle is a jointed mouthpiece with a medium length shank. If that was to be applied to a horse of an English discipline, that would be referred to as a curb bit.
Right, exactly.
But it's not always.
It's
So
not,
if in the English business, a snaffle with a joint or two joints in it is considered your basic run-of-the-mill station wagon bit.
Exactly. And, I always start my horses there, even my young horses. I don't like a lot of metal. Like, I don't like them really fat because I think that gets really uncomfortable for them. But what I like to do is start with that. I want to make sure I have the proper size. I think that's
so
a big key.
How do you know the proper size left to right?
Well, you want to make sure that there's not too much play on either side of the horse's mouth. What I do is I put them on, and I have some bits that are certain sizes. I have a 5, I have a 5.5, and I like bits, so I have a huge bit box. So I have some bits that I know of the sizes of them. I can always measure them. So we have a tape as well, and then you want to make sure when you put the bit in the horse's mouth that there's not too much play on either side of the mouth.
So how much is enough?
Well, obviously you don't
is a
want
pinky
the ring.
finger too much on each side?
I think a pinky finger is plenty. Any more than that, especially you want to make sure if you pull on one side that there's not too much bit that sticks out of the other side of the horse's mouth. So again, it needs to fit snug, but not too snug.
I used to use a pencil on each side.
Yeah,
pinky fingers seemed to be too big.
Yeah,
but pencils seemed to work better for me.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I think you just have to look at it, and there are lots of books and literature out there. Or your trainer, I more look at them myself and kind of see where they are. They also have some items you can get to measure the horse's
Those
bit.
fancy little bit sizers and stuff.
Those are great. I always say when I'm shopping, I need to get one just to have them because I think they're really helpful. So you can use those. Your local tack shop should be able to help you with that.
So you've got to get the right size.
Right.
His teeth are healthy.
Right
you've got to
size
get the right
bit.
size.
Right,
Okay.
exactly. When we use a curb bit, that's a double bridle. We use 2 bits in dressage, and
That's a lot of metal.
It's a lot of metal. It starts at 3rd level or higher, and at the FEI, the international levels, they have to be in a double bridle. And that's a whole nother tip. But
Altogether,
that's a whole nother issue. And
So when you put the bit in their mouth, you've got the right size.
right,
In the English disciplines, the bit fits up against their lips a little bit different than in the Western. So in the English disciplines, how is that going to fit up against the little lip? When is it tight enough and when is it too tight?
well, if they feel like there's, their lips are being spread out, that's too tight.
Okay.
Their lips need to fit nice and softly against the bit.
So do you have a wrinkle in their lip?
Yeah, a lot of people like 2 wrinkles.
2?
Just
Okay.
2, so that the cheek pieces aren't pulling the bit up too much in the horse's mouth.
Okay. So compared to a curb bit on a Western horse, it generally touches. But it doesn't wrinkle.
I don't know about
It touches but doesn't wrinkle.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, so we want 2 wrinkles,
Okay.
and then you also want to make sure your cheek pieces aren't too tight or too loose. And too loose is if you can pull them off the horse's face.
The cheek pieces of the bridle.
Of the
Got it.
bridle, and that's gonna again a proper fitting bridle leads to a proper fitting bit. So so you really have to be careful that. I have some people that this happens a lot. They'll get a new horse and they want to use the same bridle. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes the horse, your new horse
just
either
doesn't fit.
and so it's either too small or too large, or you have keepers or pieces of the bridle that are sticking out too much, and that's a problem. So there are very, very economical bridles out there now, so you can get one. So just make sure that you have a proper fitting bridle.
Okay,
on
so
the
you've
horse.
got the right width of bridle, and you've got it fitted up against his little lips, the corners of his mouth properly.
Right.
Okay. Diameter of the bit. Is there such a thing as a bit that's too fat in the diameter?
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier with when they're too
Too big around.
Too big around. I mean, it's
How
just,
can you tell when it's too big around for your horse?
the old style bits were really big around and they were heavy. I think we have much better metals now. We use either German silver or Aragon, which are nice metals. They come from Germany, come from overseas. And there's also just a regular silver snaffle, which is fine too. And they're lighter. Some horses need a heavier bit. Again, you sort of have to know that about your horse. And it's always helpful to have either a trainer or a friend that has lots of different bits if you need to try.
So does the interior shape of the horse's palate, how
Yes.
high the palate is, or how high the roof of his mouth is, and how fat his tongue is, that's what decides whether or not he can deal with a large diameter versus a small diameter.
Right. And I have never had a horse that can really deal with a large diameter very well. So I always start with a medium. In the catalogs, a lot of bits are really thin, and really thin bits can be very harsh bits. So you have to be careful that you don't get something that's too thin.
So you want
or
big
too
enough
thick.
to be kind, but not
Right.
so fat to make your horse's mouth uncomfortable.
Right. It's just like if you were to, have your mouth around something that's really, really wide, it's very uncomfortable. Same thing for horses. And again, the palate size, the size of their actual mouth makes a difference.
Because you can have a horse that wears a 5 3/4 bit, but if the roof of his mouth is very flat,
Sure.
combine it with a fat tongue,
Oh, it'd be very uncomfortable.
you wouldn't want to have a bit of a large diameter then, would you?
Right, exactly, because it'd be very, very uncomfortable for them. So that would kind of create problems. So that horse may need a thinner bit. You also have the size in a snaffle. You have the size of the rings in a loose ring snaffle. Do you have a kind of a Berdoon?
That's that little tiny one.
little
when
tiny
you use
one.
2 at a time,
Right. You
Okay.
can use it as a regular.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can. It's some horses, like I have a pony, and she has a smaller, the ring of the bit smaller, versus a bigger horse. Maybe that doesn't work so well. So,
so
yeah,
the size of the ring
does matter. But I always start everybody in a loose ring snaffle with just one single joint, and just to see how they are. And then if I feel like I need a little bit more adjusting, and the horse doesn't like the action of the bit hitting their tongue, hitting the tongue and the roof of the mouth, and then I'll go to the KK snaffle, which is the one that has a nice soft.
It's double jointed.
Yeah, it's double jointed.
But the joint goes at a particular angle to be kinder to the inside of the horse's mouth.
Right.
It doesn't poke.
Yeah, so those are my 2 bits that I start with.
So whenever you change bits, you change. You would plain old boring loose ring snaffle. That's the one
Right.
with a ring that goes round and round on it.
Right, exactly.
It's single jointed. I'm
Yep.
not real happy with how the horse goes in that. Then you're going to go, okay, I'm going to change the mouthpiece, but the ring
Right.
is going to stay the
The
same.
ring is gonna stay the same.
Change one thing
at a time.
at a time.
Exactly.
I think that's key because a lot of folks will go, oh, well, I'm just going to get a double jointed full cheek.
Right. Well, yeah.
Change one ingredient
Right.
at a time.
Because the full cheek has a different action.
Very different than a loose ring.
And we use it on young horses for turning. If we need a full cheek, we need a little bit more pressure. That's where we go. So there are great books out there. There are great resources. There are people that's what they do for a living is bidding. And so if I really have some questions, I have a book. Herb Springer has one out, and it goes through their line of bits and how they work. And I look at the book if I really need some information that way.
There you go. Very interesting.
Yeah.
So change one ingredient at a time.
Right.
Make sure that both the diameter and the width of the bit fit the horse.
Correct.
So that when you make sensible choices there. So that's
Right.
3 things to do, bidding 101.
Right.
Fit the width, fit the diameter, and if you need to change because you don't think you've got the right piece for that particular horse, don't be changing it all at one time.
No. Right. Exactly.
Cool.
Go slowly. That's like you could say that for horses in general. Always try to change one thing, at a time.
Don't change all of the ingredients.
Because then you don't know what worked.
If you have flat pancakes,
Yeah.
don't change everything. Just change one thing, and
Right.
then you'll know why you have fluffy pancakes.
Exactly.
Well, once again, wonderfully practical. Sometimes the most basic tips you go, oh yeah, that's right. That's awesome. Thank you very much, Reese.
You're welcome. Anytime.
To listen to all of Reese's tips, just go to horsetipdaily.com and go to the experts drop-down menu on the left. You can also go to Maple Crest Farm website and see what Reese and the gang are up to. Just go to maplecrestfarmky.com and see what they're doing over there in Georgetown, Kentucky. Don't forget to support our sponsors here on Horse Tip Daily because they really do make these podcasts possible. Today's sponsor has been EquestrianCollections.com. Visit them today for a world of choices in equestrian shopping, and they deliver it right to your door. Please stop by the Horse Tip Daily Facebook page and let us know what you think of the tips you hear on the show. It's also a great place to tell us about topics you'd like us to cover on the show. You can subscribe to all of the great shows on the Horse Radio Network through iTunes or Zune and get your horse podcasts automatically downloaded to your iPod, Zune, or MP3 player. I'll be back again tomorrow with another new expert and a different horse tip. Until then, go ride your horse! The Horse Radio Network and the Horse Radio Network hosts are not responsible for statements of guests or their opinions. Use your own judgment when listening to the tips provided by the experts on Horse Tip Daily.